Hello, everyone. The title of tonight's episode is The Worlds We Live For. Couldn't remember if I said we live in or we live for. The worlds we live for. This idea came to me. Okay, this music definitely has to change. I find that just like we need food for the body's continuity, I find that the mind requires the experience of imagery. It requires a world. And just like how people are drawn to different food, human beings are drawn to different views of the world. They have different appetites for existential expression and experiential expression. Right now, what these talks are usually here for, it's kind of like my explorations into the unknown edges of conceivable reality that is only ascribed to the visible. I thought about the concept of nothingness, and I thought, how can I even have the concept of nothingness? The concept of emptiness. And I realized as long as we're a creature based on form, we will constantly seek a world of form. But when there are moments, there have been people in history who they have realized more than the world of form. They have realized a sort of formless self, a selfless self. What does that mean? That means that usually throughout the day, or in general, I find, the person's intelligence is, like, I don't know about others, but in my experience of the world, usually in society and where there's a requirement for social engagement, I just take an image of myself and I go. Like for me, what I mean by that is that the thoughts I have on myself were very important to me, but when I realized I was not a thought, then my relationship with thoughts became one where it's as if, like, when thoughts come to me, it's as if like a breeze is hitting me. The wind came out of nowhere and you felt it. One of those kind of situations. So I'm saying that if your mind feeds on forms or expressions of the, not expressions, but the shape of the world is your mind's direction, the shapelessness of the world is your body's direction. And I wondered about this. I wondered about, like, the afterlife in some sense. But I didn't wonder about it just in the realms of images and stories. I wondered about a sort of switching around of being a creature of mind to then being the mind of a creature. And the mind of the creature, because it considers the world because it considers the world and the shape of the individuality in that world, it is considering all of it. You see, sometimes it's not enough that we just see something and that's it. Sometimes we want a sort of advancement, as if we human beings, our lives are based on work. And what that means is based on conscious expression and result. You see, we have built a civilization on this idea that we want to see ourselves be at the peak of change. You know, this is why people try to be like number one in everything they do. Like there's people like that. You know, I've seen people who they they're trying to make their minds into reality, and I've seen people who are in reality with a state where they can't even acknowledge their mind. What that means is the problem of thinking that you're just particles and atoms is that atoms don't need a context. Do you see? Their context is emptiness. So the final context that all concepts in some sense are basking in is the context of emptiness and the change. Either the world changes or your attention changes. Do you see? Either you, if you're in a room right now, if like science kind of looks at the universe as a room we're in, okay? A room that its corners are like, kind of like the four major forces in it. So what I'm saying is that we have spectrumized a moment of being. As I'm speaking to you right now, these words are, you can say they are the fruits of the tree that is this moment. Something like that. Believe it or not, I've had very nice moments in this life, just like staring out of a window, you know. And as I've stared out of a window, I've kind of noticed where I am and what's beyond where I am. And sometimes in your life, it's like we value experience over ideological perfection. What I mean by that is, like, if somebody came and told you, hey man, do you want to ride a horse or do you want to just read about a horse? Which one would you choose? And you'd see, if you haven't ridden a horse before, you'd be like, okay, I want to ride the horse. Let's see how this works, you know? Because I personally feel, and this is like, again, like I feel evolutionary wise, we shouldn't be sitting in chairs like the way we are. We should be like, anyways, whatever. I'll bring that up. But pretty much, guys, I'm saying we are to others like an object, and in some sense, a single form. But to ourselves, behind our eyes, our attention, in some sense, colors its history through many memories. And for me, it's as if, like, when I wake up in the morning, as if the way that feels like a new day is because the way I was looking at the world the day before it is like totally different. It's as if the energy levels of the creature, in some sense, dictate its world, its awareness to its world. So pretty much think of it this way. Evolution was occurring, and it was just all, we can say, pure nature's expression, as if like something's here and it's just moving, it's happening. And in this great happening of existence and nature's movement, in some sense, we right now conclude that an aspect of nature deviated from one path, and in some sense something happened that this creature that was just nature's eyes moving suddenly became a self to itself. It became an individual. It noticed that, like, as if like the caveman looked in a pond and was like, holy shit, that's me, and this is and I'm somewhere, you know. as if the individualization was made, as if like some animals, if you put them in front of a mirror, it takes them a couple seconds to see if that's them or that's another cat, for example, if a cat looks in a mirror. So what I'm saying is we as human beings instantly recognize. We instantly recognize that this is us and this is the world. That separation, it was like spoon fed into civilization story for any child, you know. So individual existence is acknowledged. We are like this unique combination of atomic structures that in some sense have now reached a point in their materialistic evolution and complexity, or wondering what is it that's looking at the matter. You see, language is our own creation. And something I've noticed is that when you see an illusion, the first thing you do is you don't engage. If you see the store is closed, you don't go to even move the door. You see the sign and it says closed. Do you see? So in some sense right now, believe it or not, and the reason I believe that as mysticism must, there must be mystics around the world who must have great senses of humor to unlock vision from the unknown. Because let me tell you, a humorous person, there was something about the fool. So I'll give you an example of the archetype of the fool in comparison to the archetype of like the winner. Where does the fool's karmic path lead, and where does the winner's karmic path lead? Now, when I say fool, you can even say it like the Joker archetype. Okay, the viewpoint of a person, the personalized view. How should I say it? The archetype of the fool or the Joker is someone who doesn't react to chaos and order, or reacts the same way to chaos and order. So what that means is you go tell the guy, yo man, you go insult a person, that person will laugh at the insult. You go say something serious, compliment the person, that person will also laugh at the insult, the compliment. Here's a good story that can describe these two archetypes and, in some sense, their relationship in one playing field. One day, this, very simple, kind of, let's say this is going to be an awesome way I'm going to say the story. Imagine one day this poor, simple, humble kind of turtle is walking. And suddenly a rabbit comes up to him, and kind of as if like the rabbit's speed is like a Ferrari passing a bicycle. And the rabbit comes and, challenges this turtle who's moving so slow in front of, like, let's say it's a public place or something, and it's like, pretty much this rabbit invites the turtle into a race where automatically he knows he's going to win. So believe it or not, I'll say this to the youth that's being born into this world, there's a lot of people who will invite you into games that they already know the outcome of. Okay, so first remember this: as a human being in this life, you're going to see many personalities are going to, in some sense, it's kind of cool thinking about it, but like many throughout this life, if you truly understand the value of living, you're going to have a sort of many personalities will approach you. You will see many ways that the human species is alive. Now, when people approach you, their ego is only exists because there is something they haven't got yet. You see, if everybody had everything they wanted, we'd make this rational choice. All right, let's just be peaceful. We all have everything, But when we don't have everything, for example, like you can even say Karl Marx, like his viewpoint is like he saw an unfairness in society and then started like this intense movement, you know. And Karl Marx's Marxism, it echoed around the world in different places because it was a sort of counterculture to a blind economy or a blind economical system. But eventually, Marxism was found to be blind too. I find any idea who's trying to keep the past alive in the presence of the future is in some sense blind. You know, that's the problem with religion. You see, I don't say, I normally, my viewpoint on religion is that I could totally see how my grandmother was like, you know, I believe getting close to 80. Religion is her, is the power behind her morality. God, as if like she is trying, she's handling her mind through a viewpoint that's as if it's all God's will, and I am trying to do, like, she's trying to follow God's instructions. That's pretty much the religious life, right? It's as if it's like you don't need to think because you take it as an instruction booklet. So you, in some sense, you never see your own ideas, and it's not just religion, guys. It's just how you go along living many years. I personally believe the way that a person's beliefs should, like, you should change the way you live every 2 years, even the way you are a person. I find because the reason is inevitably it changes, and it's all a sort of momentary management of memory. So we are creatures of an abstract existence. We are subject. There's as much as your objective self exists, a subjective self exists, and this subjective self is the bridge between pure awareness and this individualized, conceived, and shaped body. As if the first thing that the eyes that open in this world did was, in some sense, open the world in a way for themselves where it was possible. So what I mean by that is that self-awareness in this evolutionary creature, it led to a point um, where the creature realized it's an oscillation of self and awareness. So what I mean by that is that you either feel in the moment you're your mind, or you feel you're just a body that has a mind. And regardless of the picture you put on in existence to see it as, it is all hovering in the presence of a moment that was there before a personality was created. If we want to live for the world, then there's no point for free will. If we want to live for ourselves, there is only free will. But this free will find itself intimidated. So just like how there was a hailstorm and that person ran to go under shelter, that person was on the beach, ran to go under shelter. Similarly, we as human beings, because we've become aware of the future, we've in some sense discovered the future. And when we've discovered this ability to be able to wonder about what will happen, not just what's happening, it's as if we subjectively you can, like, as if a person is like on a bus, but in his mind he sees the whole bus and the planet is all in empty space. So for me, a question I asked, like, kind of in my own self-inquiry for my presence, like, why am I in a box of attention? The turtle looked at the rabbit and said, I accept your challenge. And the rabbit looked at the turtle and was like, holy shit, this turtle thinks he can beat me. All right, let's do it. Let's show him who the winner is. The rabbit's like, I've never lost, so why would I lose today? And the turtle's like, man, I've lost a lot of things. It's not gonna hurt me if I lose. Let me try. You know, like, do you see how these mentalities function in that story? So anyways, what happens is the race begins. You know, all the animals, let's say in this animal story town, gather around. They gather around, and in some sense, the race begins. The turtle has studied Buddhist doctrine, so he's like, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Begins with the first step. So the turtle begins. He puts his conscious effort into reaching the end and just maintains his energy and just continues. The rabbit has ran so far ahead that it's like the turtle can't see him and he can't see the turtle, and he's like, my God, you know, this like, I've won this. And so he's there in the middle and he just gets bored, and so he's like, I'll take a nap, I'll wake up. And so as the rabbit sleeps, suddenly he gets a strange feeling, and he just like suddenly he wakes up. He sees the footprints of the turtle and realizes a mistake made and runs. Right when he sees the turtle, he also sees the turtle a few steps from the finish line, and he runs as fast as he can, but the turtle has become victorious. And so that's where you begin to realize the illusion of the future result. The rabbit, like, I guess gives a high five to the turtle. It's like, yo, man, you got guts, kid. You got guts. In some sense, I'm saying the notion of the fool is the notion, or the joker, or humor, and the importance of humor in life, and the ability in regards to mystical treasure revealing, inner treasure revealing. Rather than reacting and fighting against the opposite of one world, rather than trying to associate yourself as an ordered creature or as a chaotic creature, because human beings are inclined towards both, especially when they get bored, their true nature, it finds them their interest. No journey can be had without the journeyer having been not, not changed. Like, the journey will change you. The future cannot be this moment. Do you see? Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying that once you witness chaos and order, as a being of wakeful intelligence, like you're awake right now, like you're in the waking state, it's as if, imagine right now where you're sitting and you suddenly wonder about a world where chaos and order never existed. As if it's just like you hadn't heard those ideas yet. Though you didn't have those viewpoints or interpretations yet. You just be like, holy shit. It's like there's a simplicity there. And that state is the same state as the witness of chaos and order. So right now you're a creature with a mind that is saying it's a self, and the self changes based on the attention and the energy levels of this creature and how it grows in this space-time continuum. But you'll see this creature has an ability to not only at the same time see its thought and body as the same, as if somebody was like, whose body is that? They'd be like, that's like that name's body. Do you see what I mean? So the objective and subjective can be experienced as one moment, or they can be experienced as separate. And so Descartes, in history, I believe Rene Descartes, what happened was that he caught on. He suddenly noticed from just being a subjective, it's as if we are oscillating between the union and the separation of chaos and order, of the major polarity. This whole life is one duality for you. I'll tell you, if you want to know who you really are subjectively, you just have to find the first duality that you conceive yourself as a creature. Pretty much you got to go to the first moment where you had enough knowledge to make a conclusion and find that conclusion. And when you find that conclusion, because philosophy is a sort of philosophy is the ultimate audience member of history's performance. The task of philosophers is to pretty much just get flashlights and in some sense repaint the pictures that were in some sense lost, as if your attention creates you, because your attention is to a world where your individual idea of self that has been in some sense that has placed its banner upon this body, the subjective self and the objective self, you oscillate between their separation and sameness. Swami Krishnananda, who I found myself uniquely kind of blessed to go to India and kind of visit the Divine Life Society ashram. And Swami Krishnananda was a person to who I had listened years before I went to India. I went there for a short period, but years before I went to India, I heard about Swami Krishnananda, and he opened this view in my mind. And the view was so crucial that it was like, it changed my life because it changed the manner that my intelligence organized itself. And it pretty much changed, it broke my beliefs. So if right now you ask me, what are my beliefs, let's say I give you some answer. And then you ask me, like, you break those beliefs in front of me, you invalidate all the validity of just like those ideas. I will still just watch. I will watch the world's, like some people are trying to prevent the world from burning, but I'll tell you, the world's already burning. And sometimes when you see the flames of change reshape the moment, you in some sense see the elements at work. In ancient yogic vision, I can say, yogic practice, they acknowledge the world as elements, as if like before the periodic table, they were like the element of water, fire, earth, wind, air, and then ether. So these were the five. And some people don't even consider the ether because it's not, it's like the element, ether is like space. It's as if people saw these forces, but they also saw these forces being somewhere. And that ultimate location was just space. Okay? So as if you are made of an element that is formless. And because it is formless, your form to personality or story of life cannot capture it. Do you see? I've had experiences where I have known that there were no words in my consciousness to explain it. And that's what I call the language threshold, this idea that came to me, and it was just powerful. It's as if when I suddenly got that revelation, that realization, I realized my real eyes is a presence. My awareness is just a phenomenon that's present. And in this presence, endless personalities, since I could consider myself as an individual. Endless personalities are just coming and going and coming and going. And when I say endless personalities, guys, I don't. What I mean by that is that every day you can have it, like you could be sitting on the bus and you could be thinking of something wrong you did, and suddenly in that moment you'd feel like a bad person. Do you see? And so I'm saying, like, that's what I mean, as if our emotions and our let's say for now thoughts, our emotions and thoughts um, reshape the personality constantly in their fluctuation. And once you observe, in some sense, you observe the moment, you realize there's no way, like, as if somebody asking about enlightenment is like somebody asking about how to sit on a chair. How to sit on the chair in a correct way. Oh my God, should I just like sit this way on the chair first? It doesn't matter, just sit on the chair. Have an honest wonder for the world. And so the worlds we live for, I can now see the idea in a more clear way, in the sense that it's the notion that not only are we just, there is only one physical world, but this one physical world has also led to 8 billion non-physical worlds. 8 billion and growing, you know? So each person is living first in their world that's fueled by their experiences. And the challenge of history, to be honest, the challenge of history is to protect, or choose, and what dimensions to protect. As if this painter, somebody comes to save this painter's paintings, and he can only carry 5, and let's say there's 100 paintings, and he has to choose. You see? These 8 billion points of attention every day live a new day, and in some sense a new way of the world. If somebody was to, if I was to ask myself in this moment what worlds I'm living for, I would first see it quickly and immediately come to the way I just have naturally structured the world, and the way I've understood nature. The way you have understood nature is the way, or how far you have been able to observe your natural expressions, automatic patterns. As if, just like how that dude in the Matrix just saw that screen with all the codes in it and he could interpret them. Similarly, you have to study every moment of your life to realize what is life, what is the value of it. Children are not given this question, and this is why society has become whatever the last generations left for us. The novelty of innovation has been lost. I remember I was in an Uber, and in some sense, I was having a very, very nice, at the same time, incredibly on a universal scale for me, disappointing conversation with this person. And unfortunately, I forget his name, but uh, so I was in the Uber ride, and I asked. How can I say it? I asked him if he had a creative, like if he did anything creative. And he told me he would write sometimes, but then he suddenly went into this mode, this self-depreciating mode of saying, "Oh, I'm not creative. I don't get ideas. Like I'm not that creative to do anything aside from just sometimes write like in a diary or something." And so I right then it was as if I noticed something. I noticed a pattern of behavior, and I told him that I told him, I asked him if he wanted to hear like my view on creativity. And so pretty much I just remember telling him that your creativity is based on how much you value your moment. If you think you're a worthless piece of shit, every thought you have, you will feel it's a worthless, piece of shit. Excuse my language, but sometimes you gotta keep, the shadows of culture alive too, uh, Just like one painter going from one studio to another studio, he chooses what he takes from one world to the next. And that choice is the self inquiry of conscious existence. And so I find the greatest homework that any sort of teacher in this existence can give any sort of student is that your eyes are open and this is the world. Study what you are made of before the curtains are pulled. They asked this guy once, what do you think's going to happen after death? And the guy just looked at, thought for a while, and he said, the eyes that can close are not the real eyes. The eyes that cannot close are not the real eyes. Your presence is energy's divine, spontaneous, just existence that's here. For me, if someone, you can say, what is like religion, and I'll just say it's energy, because all those people believing and seeing that idea, they're all energetic on some point. As if through an interpretation of voltage, as if your body holds a very high voltage because of the, you know, pulse of your being, you know. Based on how multidimensionally you perceive yourself, based on the layers you see to your existence, the more dimensions you require to be conscious of. If I choose to think right now as I'm speaking, I'm a thought, I'm an I thought, like a lot of, some people, not everybody has an iPhone, but every being, every self-aware being has an I thought. A thought that they are saying I. So when they write a letter and say something like, I am pleased to say whatever or whatever, like in the letter, the I is a thought of that one is feeling they are. Once you distance yourself from thought, your emotions suddenly stop being like turbulent waves. They suddenly calm down. When your attention, in some sense, becomes singular, it begins to, as if like your world was based on a certain speed, suddenly you stop, and suddenly the world doesn't make sense to you in the same way as it did before. For me, there's an elegance in doing things, but there's also an elegance in the way that you are being. And this is what I consider this to be an inner dimension of the person. And the inner dimension is made up of language. Because our will of expression is suggesting our will to receive. How much we're willing to express ourselves will suggest how much we're willing to receive, to even express. As if that person wanted to be the first in Olympics, like he saw himself as an Olympic winner right away, but now it was time to bring the story to life. Is it foolish to be a master in this world? When I say master, I'm not talking about like historical disgrace and confusions. When I say this, I'm saying it in the sense that who you are is a moment's creation. Now, that sentence can be heard in two ways: a moment's creation, as if something created in a moment, or a creation that's momentarily being experienced. Either our knowledge bows to the unknown to realize its blind spots. And when I say bows, I mean like we find the humility in an ability to reshape knowledge. And if the past doesn't want to change, the future can always create a new dimension. So what does that mean? That means imagine somebody is saying, like, you're caught in a lifestyle that you cannot get out of. So way is you either have to stop the current process, or you have to, in some sense, create a new dimension and a new world and slowly move towards that world. Because if you can wonder about who you will be in 10 years, you can also wonder what kind of world that 10 yourself in 10 years is going to see. The worlds we live for now is very individual, but it will eventually become collective because we will see self-aware matter wants to keep organization. Our whole morality is based on designs that we feel should continue. Behaviors tolerated and not tolerated. As if with the same, as if like there were like the early scientists on this planet, they met the religious inquisition or whatnot, and the religious inquisition like really kind of like hit back. Now scientists are taking the same rage and trying to hit religion, as if religion punched first, and now um, um, a world without God must punch back. For me, these are all archetypes. All your thoughts are, in some sense, being simulated in the light and pillars, being kept by the pillars of certain thoughts that you just fundamentally believe are absolutely true. They're like rooted in your subconscious. As if your consciousness is seeing the fruit of the tree, but your unconscious is like how the roots are keeping the whole thing there, and the fruit cannot know the secret of the roots, but it will know its inspiration is now. As if when I wonder what my ancestry lived for, I will see they lived for this moment, that I am now the torchbearer of my DNA. As if biology or just evolution was the effort for genes to just not die. We are nature having found a way to, in some sense, see itself unnaturally. Enlightenment can be said to be the wonder of how light is being existent, and what what the meaning of light is. The purpose of your senses is beyond them. As if, how can I say this? My sensor perception right now is like keeping my view of the world, but when I wonder who are my senses reporting to, or where are they going, I see they are going towards a brain that has been able to somehow have thoughts, and these thoughts are like forms, designs in an invisible room. As if I can visualize a giant apple right now, like basketball-sized apple floating in the room where I am, like you can probably do too, But you see, it's like as if that apple is here, but it's not. Its design is there. So design is prior to. And the arguments of design are much more superior than the arguments of um, the story of truth. As one studies the design of the world, they will be led to the personality, or the I thought will be led to two outcomes. One outcome is that it's like you will reach a dead end of validity. The other approach is that you reach the dead end of invalidity. It's as if you first believed, now you disbelieve, and now you're like trying to see beyond both of those. And so you're left to your raw experience. And my natural self is just how the moment is being a sort of existence, a subjective existence for itself. As if one can say, the purpose of physical evolution was to, in some sense, lead us towards a subjective evolution. And the purpose of our subjective evolution is to take our experiential evolution beyond the limits of its own consideration. That means sometimes you shouldn't believe the ideas of like people outside, and sometimes you shouldn't believe the ideas you have. So my relationship with thought is a sort of distancing. So the worlds that I live for is how my value system sees the most important phenomena to be attentive to. The more you know, the more you see you don't know. The more you see, the more you see how much you don't see. Inevitably, this civilization, where can it go? It's going to go towards a global community. Then this global community is going to want to explore beyond itself, both in its inner dimensions and outer dimensions. So language, it has a certain speed of evolution, and the sophistication of culture's involvement with the technological reality, and also at the same time with the creative reality, how can I tell you? It's as if nature is fighting the machines, and in the middle are our egos. As if, imagine when mankind was being attacked by robots, just all the animal life, like all the inferior animals, because mankind is the superior animal as it sees it in the mainstream. But like what I'm saying is that imagine the world began to protect its citizen. When I went to the Divine Life Society in India, I went into their meditation hall and I sat there, and believe it or not, I laughed and cried at the same time. And when I went there, I remembered again that Swami Krishnananda quote, which is the inseparability meditation. There's no more need for meditation once the inseparability of the individual activity and the cosmic activity is realized. Once your moment is undivided, it will suddenly find itself as the conqueror of its direction, you know? For me, one of the most greatest lessons I've learned in this life is that the greatness you see within yourself, you should see within others. Because people will always surprise you. I don't believe it's possible to truly love the world if you don't love yourself. Because if you have a certain hatred towards a certain way that you're living, this hatred will echo in the projection of the world for you. That means it's gonna be easy to hate people when you hate yourself. It's gonna be easy to love people when you love yourself. And you can only love yourself. And when I say love, it's not like you kind of like hug yourself, but like pat your own back. Like, I'm not talking about that kind of. I'm saying that life is just a fluctuation of simplicity and complexity. Some moments it's the unknown moving the knowledge. Some moments it's the known moving the unknown, or interpreting the unknown. Um, I remember in 2014 when I started giving these talks. When I started giving these talks, I remember I would go sit somewhere in the day where it was like this nature area of this accommodation place in Birmingham, UK. It had a pleasant yard, and it had a really strange kind of bench, because the bench was like just this square, like this cube. I don't know how to say. Anyways, I sat on this cube and I gave these talks. And I remember there was a moment where I was about to give a talk, and a bird flew in front of my like for some reason the bird had become unnecessarily close. So imagine an arm's length from my eyesight, it flew in front of my eyesight, the bird. And so I got a close look at the wings of the bird and the design, and like, I don't know what to tell you, but in that moment it was just I saw nature's brilliance beyond my own conclusions. And I believe our love for the continuity of nature's playful innovation, as if like they tell somebody like, why do you want to live for the world? They're like, okay, man, there was a renaissance that happened, and we want to live to a point where renaissances happen every day. People in different societies begin finding an alignment of their creative expressions into a collective creative expression. I believe the world has seen too much of it's like it's going to get bored of just luxury and business. The world requires art. When the working man goes home, he turns on the TV and watches a show that is not reality. And as creatures of a subjective existence and objective existence, sometimes we just need to be alone with our thoughts. And sometimes we definitely need to be around people. And I've noticed that anytime I've chosen a certain uh, duality over life, like when I've run for the good, I saw what I missed in the bad. When I ran for the bad, I saw what I missed in the good. And I realized there's no escape. There's no escaping how the mind constantly projects and historifies the world through a dualistic universal framework. In a cyclical world, or let's say solar system, either our eyes love spheres or God likes spheres. It's like, like imagine mathematicians begin seeing the sphere as the mind of God, as a reflection of the mind of God. Just like warriors back in the day wielded a sword and a shield, is because there were moments in life where you have to charge at it, and there are moments in life where you need to stand your ground. And sometimes it's more worth it rather than just to limit yourself. Sometimes it's okay for the idea of yourself to fluctuate in social situations. So in social situations, people shouldn't take their ideas too seriously. They should conduct communication moves freely in playfulness. But communication in seriousness, if I was here and I was like super serious talk, gosh, I have to tell you something, and this is it, and we should do that, and all this. Like, if I was so serious, I would, in some sense, be like that person driving in the highway who doesn't look at the rear, the side windows, the side mirrors. I'd be just going in one direction regardless of a consideration of worlds that could surpass mine. Because that is the notion of transcendence, As if the caterpillar, if it had a personality, if the caterpillar had some sort of humanized personality, let's say, it'd be like, what the hell, man? I got all these legs and I gotta walk and all this. What's the point of this life? I should just get rid of myself. What's the point of this? And little does that caterpillar know. Little does the little caterpillar know that once it has completed a lifetime of experiencing many legs, it will metamorphosize into a lifetime of experiencing the opposite, the sky. And so, believe it or not, Buddhists believe in an eternal memory. They believe in a pattern that can be remembered beyond just the conscious framework of life. That means there are gifts that come from the known, like for example, it's your birthday, somebody gives you a gift, and then there are gifts that come from the unknown. Suddenly your boss gives you a raise because, like his boss gave her a raise. I've experienced both chaotic moments in society and very ordered moments in society, and I'll tell you, none of them matter. What matters is the result of innovation. As if when you wake up your eyes tomorrow, how you live will be it will be kind of like what the story of your life tomorrow is going to wake up to. Yeah. So that's for the talk portion of the live stream. If anybody has a question, you can ask. Pretty much the talk finished there. trying to think what could be a general problem that many people experience that I could just share with you on. Let's say the concept of balance. We're pretty much advised we need to have balance because if you do anything extremely, it's going to change you too dramatically to maintain. So, how does one attain balance? And is it necessary to always be balanced? Let's say it like this, that the world comes across to you as different challenges or as different environments. So pretty much you can say life is a sequence of conscious moments, which are environments. And in these environments, the attention of the whole moment is on, how can I tell you, on the direct sensory meaning of the phenomena and also the indirect subjective meaning of the phenomena. That means when I look at my watch, right now I'm looking at my watch and I see its design and I see the handles and I see on some level what time it is. Actually, I can't see it. It's too much. It's almost 12, almost midnight. Where I'm having the idea of midnight is totally different to the existence of this physical watch. In Buddhist thought, it is acknowledged that physical reality is empty. So what that means is when you read a book, it's just ink on a page. But it's somehow when your attention goes on it, it generates meaning. As if it's the opposite of like Cyclops from the X-Men. When that dude took off his glasses, like, just like, pretty much the moral of his story in the X-Men was always have your glasses, But pretty much what I'm saying is that it's a sort of reception phenomenon, reception part of your intelligence. You are extracting meaning from the objective dimension and it's finding animation in the subjective dimension. The purpose of life, if seen as a subjective purpose and an objective purpose, can be rationalized into a much more efficient view in the sense that objectively it's just stuff. I mean, like, what can I do? I'm as changing as that tree and as everything in this universal sector. So my body is just a natural display of shape and then it will fade, But my mind is a mystery, because it is where the unknown lives. And when I see the broad edge of my knowledge, when I was younger, my ego didn't dare to step beyond that fence. As if like Frodo went to that point where he hadn't been further in the Shire and was like, all right, no way, I'll just throw this ring in the trash. So I'm saying you meet the edge and the border of your discovery. And your discovery becomes a self-discovery, and the self becomes just a moment of endless exploration of the unknown. You can't put life into a story because it's just the moment is happening in a way where it'll change the moment you do. Who you are, who I am now that you're hearing me is not who I will be tomorrow. And it's the same for everyone. I hope this talk has served you. Much blessings. And here, there's one person watching. If you have a question, you can ask. I guess there are no questions in empty space. All right. Much blessings and namaste.